With me is Brooke Moffis from Sumter County Extension to talk about annual plants. Welcome, Brooke.
Hi, thanks for having me, Julie.
Well, I guess the first question is, what is an annual plant?
Okay, annuals, there's annuals or there's perennials as far as flowers in your garden goes. And for annuals, what they are, they're plants that complete their entire life cycle within 1 year's time. So this means they start out as a seed, they grow into a plant, they produce flowers, and then those flowers go to seed all within their growing season. So annuals in Central Florida, you want to treat them as a true annual. Just know that they're probably not going to come back for you. So, but every now and then in Central Florida, we do have annuals that will come back year after year. So they're almost like a perennial was from up north. But really, the quality is less and less for those annuals that do come back every year.
So every year they look a little bit more worn out.
Right, a true annual. And annuals also, they will bloom like crazy. They will produce lots of foliage in a short amount of time. And, it's almost like that's it for that one shot, for that one growing season. And then after that, like you said, they kind of tucker out a little bit.
So they probably, actually, an annual probably won't last you the whole year. For example, there's probably certain annuals we grow at different times of the year.
Exactly. And it's great living in Central Florida because you can have winter annuals, you can have spring annuals, you can have summer annuals too.
So great. So it's kind of like changing your furniture. You change your plants every...
Exactly.
So where should I plant these annuals?
Okay, so just like you said, it's kind of like changing your furniture, to get a new look. You want to plant annuals in places that will give you a lot of bang, like at the front of your house in a small bed, or if you want to put them in a container, that's fine too. Anywhere where you want to draw attention to that section of your yard, you could put a bed of really bright, colorful annuals in. Also, patios or around pools are good too. But you want to keep them in small spaces because they are here today, gone tomorrow. They're not like a perennial plant that's going to be in your landscape for a long period of time.
So you could intersperse them in between in your regular landscaping just to give you spots of color.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
So what should I be thinking about? It's now kind of early spring. So what kind of things should I be thinking about planting in my yard?
Okay, well, early spring, you still have pansies blooming.
My favorite.
Yep, they're beautiful, and they come in all different types of colors. There's one that is bright red, about as red as you can get, and it's called Robin, and it's a new pansy that's out on the market. But these, you're actually going to grow them over the winter. You can still plant them in early spring, but no, they're not going to last you too long.
When are they going to be done by? When do they start?
They're going to start, I would say, towards the end of April. Pansies will be on their way out, and violas too. Viola is like a small version of a pansy, and they're going to start to, be affected by the heat and the humidity.
So what are some other things to think about planting?
Okay, this is one of my favorites to plant
What's
for
that
the spring.
one? I'm not familiar with that one.
This one is called Calibrachoa or Million Bells. If you can't remember Calibrachoa, Million Bells is a little bit easier to remember. Yeah. What it is, it's a really small petunia. And it blooms like crazy. Plant this now, and during the springtime. It'll actually even grow through the winter too. So this is one that really you could plant as early as November, October, and then grow it all the way until about June. And about the end of June, they can't take the heat, they can't take the humidity, and they will die out.
Am I going to find those at my local garden center, or do I have to buy them grow them from seed?
You can find them at the local garden center, which is absolutely great. So look for Million Bells. They come in this purple. They come in a Bordeaux wine color. I love the names that they call them. They also come in like a chartreuse green, which is really hard to find green flowers. Yeah, and they'll come in a pale yellow too. So very, very pretty plant. You can go from a 4-inch pot, maybe about this size, to a container garden, maybe about this size, hanging basket, within about a month, 2-month time period. So they really do a lot.
And I assume since they're called Millions of Bells, they must be completely just covered with little blooms.
And like I said, it's true annual. It blooms its head off. It's not going to be a bit of good for you the next year, but wow, it's awesome while you have it.
Great. So what else do you have to show us?
Okay, this is a summer annual that you can grow, and this one is called Diamond Frost Euphorbia. And it's really interesting. It's closely related to poinsettia, but this one will kind of mound. It has these really delicate white flowers on it, and when it's grown as a mass, it looks really pretty in the landscape.
How tall did they get?
They can get, I would say, about a foot, maybe about a foot wide and a foot high. So a real nice mounding plant, and they look great in containers. Then we also have this ground cover. Absolutely love it. Again, kind of chartreuse green there. This is called Lismachia. This specific one is actually called Goldilocks because it does kind of have that gold color to it. This can be grown as a ground cover. You can also put it, and it will come back. Actually, my mother has it growing in the pasture in Tennessee over this area that gets a lot of erosion problems. She grew Creeping Jenny there, and I couldn't believe it actually came back for her. So this one, you know, I wouldn't really consider it a true annual. It's more of a perennial, especially if it comes back year after year up in Tennessee, and it will come back year after year for you. But you'll see it sold as an annual. But again, it's Lismachia Goldilocks, so lots of color in the landscape. The more sun you give it, the more yellow it will get too.
You said it creeps. Is it kind of invasive, or does it kind of stay in a general area?
You know, it will spread for you, but it's not really invasive. It's very easy to control. If you don't like where it's going, it's very easy to pull up and put it in a place where you like where it's, you know, creeping into. So very, very easy to control. It's not really a real invasive plant, but it will spread for you if you put it out in the landscape. I grow it in containers, and then once it gets really long, I'll go in and I'll give it a haircut from time to time.
So what's the best way to take care of these annuals? Do I need to fertilize them, prune them? What do I do?
Annuals will benefit from fertilizer, and you can use like a slow release fertilizer. And if you use a slow release fertilizer, this means that the nutrients are slowly available to that plant over time. You may only have to do one fertilizer application a few weeks after planting, and that may be all that you need. And as far as watering goes, it all depends. This Diamond Frost Euphorbia here, this plant can take pretty dry conditions, so you may not need to water that one as often. Now, if you're growing in containers, the rule is to put your finger in the pot. If it feels bone dry, water it. If it feels the least bit moist, don't water it. So that's a pretty good rule. But really, annuals are very easy. I'll give you some tips as far as planting them in the landscape. You buy annuals by the flat, not by the plant.
Flat?
A flat would be like 12 plants. Especially when it comes to something like a pansy. A pansy is not very showy by itself.
So one pot's not going to do you much good.
Exactly. With annuals, you know, plant them by the flats and plant them in mass and plant them densely too, at least for the pansies and the violas, things that are small that have a very short growing season. These guys don't get very big, so you want to pack as many in there as possible.
So you were talking about slow release fertilizer a moment ago. Is that only in solid fertilizer or granular fertilizer, or is liquid slow release as well?
Liquid is not slow release fertilizer because it's soluble in water, so it just dissolves readily. It's readily available to the plant. You can use it for containers, however, but what you would do is you would, when you water, you don't do it every time you water, but you would do it maybe once a month or maybe even twice a month with a water-soluble fertilizer. This would be kind of like your powders that you mix in with the water. So you can do those a couple times a month. Just mixed in a watering can.
So out in your landscape, you just sprinkle some of what appropriate fertilizer that says something like for flowering annuals.
Yeah, and to me, the slow release is the way to go. It's so easy to deal with, and it's slowly available to the plant over time, so you're not going to get a lot of like leaching of nutrients into the
and the runoff.
soil. Right, and the runoff from soil too. Right.
Well, great. Well, I guess it's time to get out and plant our annuals.
Oh, definitely.